headscarf on, and around his waist a prayer shawl, identifying him as a Jew. At his feet is a menorah, whose glow parallels the glow around his head. At the top right is a desecrated synagogue with flames coming out of it, above which flutters a German flag, and the figure of a man with an armband outside it. At the bottom right is a man with all of his belongings on his back in a sack, while a woman trying to comfort her child faces us. At the bottom left is a man clutching a Torah scroll, while another man has a sign around his neck that once read, Ich bin Judah, or I am a Jew, in German. In the upper left is a village that has been attacked, its survivors trying to flee to safety by a boat. At the top left of the painting is the Soviet Red Army, which in 1938 Chagall hoped would come to the rescue of Germany's Jews. Above the entire scene hover the figures of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Rachel, who look on with sorrow and anguish. White crucifixion was painted in 1938, years before the Holocaust began in earnest. A painting by Marc Chagall and our reading from Isaiah have something to teach us about fierce hope. Let's take a look. We have all known despair. Each of us at some point in our lives have wrestled with hopelessness. Maybe we were born with an athletic gift. We could pitch a ball or shoot a three-pointer or pass a ball better than others. We've been scouted by professional leagues. A contract awaits our signing. And as we're making the game-winning play, something in our back snaps, and our hopes vanish. Maybe, however, we've been recruited out of college to an up-and-coming company, have invested extra time and hours and risen through the ranks, and have stock options in the millions. We have a house, bigger than we need, but with an adjustable rate mortgage, we'll be okay. Then we show up for work Monday morning, and there's a notice on the locked door that our company is bankrupt. Our stock options now are worth less than the paper they're printed on. Our house goes into foreclosure, and forget about presents for kids this Christmas. Hope is gone. Maybe, though, we've been lucky. We've had a good job and retired with a pension plan that provides its needed health insurance. But read in the paper our company has been sold, and our pension's health insurance plan is no more. And we can't find coverage because of a pre-existing medical condition. Hope vanishes. But maybe we've avoided all those scenarios and have been fortunate enough to have an early retirement. We've bought the RV, gotten the AAA triptych with lots of interesting places to see, and our spouse has a crippling stroke that requires round-the-clock care. Hope disappears. We've all dealt with despair. Each of us have wrestled with hopelessness in our lives. The people of Israel were no different from any of us. they faced despairing situations too. They first encountered despair in Egypt under Pharaoh's tyranny, crying out for a deliverer. Things looked better, however, with King David, who had an epiphany that although he had a spacious palace, the Ark of the Covenant was still in a tent. David resolved to build a house for God, a temple to the Lord. But Samuel said that instead God would build a house or dynasty for David. God promised David that one of his descendants would always sit on the throne of Israel. That promise of a Davidic king was a tangible sign that Israel pinned its hopes on. David's son, King Solomon, built that temple. Another visible sign of God's presence among the people, a tangible sign upon which the people of Israel pinned their hopes. After Solomon died, the United Kingdom split into a northern kingdom of Israel with 10 tribes and a southern kingdom of Judah with 2 tribes. Fast forward 200 years, and the Assyrians wipe the northern kingdom of Israel off the face of the map. The capital of Samaria and their own temple and the 10 tribes were gone. But the southern kingdom with the Davidic king and temple in Jerusalem remained. And the southern kingdom's hopes continued, pinned on tangible signs of God's presence among them. Fast forward another 150 years, and now the Babylonians have surrounded Jerusalem. One of Isaiah's contemporaries, named Jeremiah, says to the king, "Give it up. You might as well surrender the city, because God has given everyone and everything in it into the hands of the Babylonians." The king refused to believe it. After all, he was a descendant of David. And the temple that Solomon built was as solid as ever. The king was wrong. Jeremiah was right, and the Babylonians came in and stripped the temple of all its precious metals, set it on fire, and toppled its pillars. The Davidic king and his sons were led in chains to Babylon, where the king watched as his sons were killed one after the other after the other. When there were no more descendants left, they gouged out his eyes and threw the king into prison, and he died there. For the people of Israel, who had pinned their hopes on a Davidic king and a glorious temple, those hopes were now destroyed. Fast forward another 70 years, and a new Persian ruler, King Cyrus, conquers Babylon and sends the Jews back home with a blank check to rebuild their temple. They take back all the precious metals that have been stripped out, and yet they sit there among the rubble in despair and hopelessness. We heard their words from Isaiah. Jerusalem has become a desolation. Our holy and beautiful house where our ancestors praised you has been burned by fire. And all our pleasant places have become ruins. The people of Israel knew what it was like to deal with despair. They had wrestled with hopelessness for century after century. They found themselves among the rubble, looking upon their shattered dreams and shriveled hopes. In the movement of these people from despair and hopelessness, grasping and groping toward hope, we find our own movements too. For it's in their struggles towards something beyond despair that we ourselves can move toward hope. What made their situation so painful was the silence of God. They asked, "Will you keep silent?" They accused, "You hid yourself." They complained, "You removed your face from us." The people felt utterly cut off. My God, why have you forsaken us?" It was bad enough they had lost the tangible and physical signs of God's presence among them, the Davidic line and glorious temple. Moreover, it felt as if the very spiritual connection they had with God had been severed. Why are you silent? Why have you hidden your face from us? The first movement of the people was in silence. What made it worse was their remembrance of other stories. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so the mountains would quake and the nations tremble at your fiery presence. Remember when you did awesome deeds, O Lord? We do. The silence was even more poignant because they remembered a different story. That God had acted in mighty ways for their ancestors. And there they sat among the rubble in the silence. They tried to figure out what was going on. Why is this happening? They said to themselves, "We must have sinned. We have done wrong. All of us are unclean, and even our righteous deeds are like a filthy rag. You have delivered us into the hand of our iniquity. There's not one who calls on your name, not one who seeks to take hold of you." There was a sense of penance, and that God was angry and upset with them. Why else would we be here among the rubble with our hopes dashed? What has happened? There was a desire to turn back to God. God hadn't turned his face from them. They had turned their faces from God. In the midst of this anguish, there is a bold proclamation and assertion by the prophet. Now consider, we are all your people. Do not be angry forever, O Lord, for you are our Father. We are your children. You are the potter. We are the clay. Your fingerprints are all over us. You can't disown us, for you've made us who we are. Our provenance, our origin is from you, O Lord. Because of that, we don't have any trust or hope in our deeds, for even our righteous deeds are like a filthy rag. But we have hope in you, O Lord, because we boldly assert that you are our Father. We are your children. we boldly proclaim that we are all your people, the work of your hands, and your fingerprints are all over us. You can't let us go. The people of Israel struggled to move from despair to a bold proclamation of hope through silence, remembrance, penance, and a claim of provenance. In their movement, we find our own. The movement from despair to hope is the story of Advent. For it's in Advent that the desperation of humanity is met by the intervention of divinity. The desperation of humanity that realizes we can't fix things on our own, that we need God to come down from the heavens and set things right. A bold trust that because God is God, that God will do this. By way of considering these things, I'd like to share with you a song by Barlow Girl called I Believe in Love. The chorus comes from words etched into the walls of barracks where Jewish prisoners awaited extermination during World War II. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in love, even when I don't feel it. And I believe in God, even when He is silent. This is the question after the Holocaust that Isaiah poses for us. After all this, O Lord, will you restrain yourself? Will you keep silent? The question for Jews is, what more does it take for the Messiah to come? The question for Christians is, what more does it take for the Messiah to return? Advent is a time when we confront the awesome mystery of God's silence and hope and pray that the Word becomes flesh once more. Amen.